Welcome back to the Quiet on Set podcast. I'm Ewan Graff, and as always, I'm joined by Lachlan as well as my cats in the background.
Warning! Lord of the Rings has been acquired by a big studio, which means remakes are on their way. If you have a bomb shelter, I'd suggest going into it now if you don't want to see any Lord of the Ring remakes.
Brace for impact, but also let's talk about the Oscars. I caught up with the last nominee that I hadn't seen yet, and Lachlan did the same with the Best Picture 10. Check out a video that we did going all over the Best Picture 10 here, but that's not the place to talk about this in this intro. You also watched the menu, so we'll talk about that.
And finally, today we shall be talking about Women Talking. Yes. The silently underrated Oscar movie. Not a lot of discussions outside of the film world about this one, so I feel like it's a quiet little hit, but you'll hear our full thoughts very briefly.
So let's cue up that intro and get into the show.
We are professionals.
This is a professional podcast.
Yes.
Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul.
Hello there.
Which actually,
Did you
this
get
is gonna
me a
be
hat
a
as
bit,
well?
Yes.
So I've got Dooncam. It's just a camera with my Dune steelbook.
Welcome back, Lachlan. It's been a busy week for us, for you.
Hello.
You watched more movies than you usually do.
More movies than you.
I wouldn't double check that. It could be. I binged another season of TV, but we'll get into that in what we've been watching. Some great stuff releasing as pretty much worldwide. We get to all of these Oscar nominees. We've had a week at our theater with After Sun and Tar playing like at the same time. And it's been great to see a lot of people enjoy that film here locally as well. So you can see those are great films. Go support them, even though they're not the biggest box office hits overall. But Lachlan, we are here to chat about film stuff, and let's get into the film news of the week. Do you want to kick it off with the big news item that you brought in last minute here with Warner Brothers?
Warner Brothers has acquired the rights to the Lord of the Rings movie franchise, which means there could be some Lord of the Rings remakes on the way. Now, this kind of almost missed being in this news segment this week because I didn't really hear about it until recently, but my God, that's pretty big because obviously Prime, or at least Amazon, owns the rights to the TV adaptation of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
and they butchered it. If I'm totally honest,
they did. Yeah,
I wonder what Warner Brothers' idea and plan is for the Lord of the Rings. Ewan, what do you feel about this? How do you?
If this happened 5 years ago, I would have been more hopeful. But Warner Brothers being on the brink of having a bunch of flops at the box office as of recent, not as many movies. They don't have that much in the bank to fund a big movie, a fantasy movie like this that costs a ton of money for CGI, for the costumes, for the set design. There's a lot of money spent, on these types of films, and I don't think they have it right now. I mean, they need it right now. They would need a big hit. I don't know if they'll be able to pull it off, though. What do you think?
Well, it depends if they're going to remake it or if they're going to just leave the original as they are and
I didn't even think about that.
What?
I didn't think they would.
What?
That hadn't even crossed my mind that they would remake it. It's so recent. Why would you remake it?
Yeah. I mean,
but
they've
yeah,
made
that's a
remakes
possibility.
faster than I guess 20 years ago, because I feel like it's about 20 years ago that they came out. Yeah, 2001. Yeah, it's about 20 years ago.
I mean, the Suicide Squad.
It's not out of the world.
Yeah,
remake like literally 2 years later.
Exactly.
The thing is, the current industry is in a phase of remakes because they don't want to establish new IPs. They want to continue on with current established IPs. There's in this earnings call, they have stated that they have made a deal to make multiple films. So obviously it's not a one project pony, this acquisition. It's very interesting, but it does say that Peter Jackson is being kept in the loop about the projects. It would be interesting to see if Peter Jackson would come back, do you reckon Peter Jackson would? Because I mean, he's done every other one. Do you reckon he would stop whatever he's doing and do another Lord of the Rings?
Yeah, he would do an other Lord of the Rings. He definitely wouldn't do a remake of it. I feel like.
No, he wouldn't do a remake, but I mean, if they offered him a new movie deal to expand the Lord of the Rings universe, do you reckon he would take it up, or do you reckon his time with Lord of the Rings is done?
I don't know him personally. No, I just don't know what he's up to as of recent since the Hobbit films. So I feel like this would be an opportunity for him to jump back onto like a big film, but I don't know if he's interested in that.
Mm.
But yeah, what do you think? You think he'll be back?
Maybe as a producer. I don't
Yeah, that's
personally
way
think
more likely.
Peter Jackson will come back to the directing helm, but I
Mhm.
feel like he'd be heavily like executive producer because he's got his hand in every single. He's basically like a pseudo director. He's not gonna be the one that says directed by. He's gonna be the one that
Mm.
has produced by. And I'm sure his name is probably going to pop up first.
Peter Jackson,
But like
Peter
this is
Jackson's Lord of the Rings, although he doesn't direct it. You know?
But this is pretty big, the fact that it's Warner Brothers, because Warner Brothers has got some massive universes, I guess they're trying to expand on. The
Yeah.
first one that comes to mind for me is Dune, because they've just hit that big success for Dune
Mm.
Part 1. They've
Yeah.
got Dune Part 2, and I'm sure if it succeeds, they're probably happy to expand the universe.
Mhm.
And again, Warner Brothers has also done DC stuff.
Yeah.
So they've also got that universe they're trying
Let's
to set up.
see it all come
It's,
together into one big universe. No,
Big
they're not allowed to do that.
universe, multiverse.
Yeah, I'm sure that there's some clause that they're not allowed to do that.
I'd love to see more Lord of the Rings. I do
Mhm.
enjoy those movies, and I'd love to see expanded universe stuff. I feel like I've said that recently with Star Wars. I'd love to see expanded universe Star Wars,
Yeah.
not Skywalker Star Wars. And the Lord of the Rings has that fantasy aspect that is really awesome. It's that classic fantasy genre that I know that you're not the biggest fan of.
Yeah.
Fantasy per
Mhm.
se.
Yeah.
Have you seen Lord of the Rings, right? But
I've
ages
seen
ago.
it. I've seen it once. I've seen all of them once.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, if you haven't seen it like 3 times, I feel like you're not a true fan of the series.
No, you're
Uh,
not.
but maybe
But
for
hey.
season 2, I'll revisit it if that turns out to be any better. I don't know.
And do you
got
reckon
some
it would make
downtime.
$1 billion?
Yeah, I feel like a new
Yeah?
Lord of the Rings film would definitely make close to $1 billion. Yeah, I think all of the Hobbit films did fairly well, but some of them didn't get to $1 billion. I feel like the consensus was pretty quickly that they stretched a one movie story into 3. That was like the peak
Do
of
you
that.
reckon it will make $2.2 million?
Billion? You mean?
Oh, sorry, $1 billion.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I mean,
forgive me.
it will make 2.2 in the first like opening hours of it, but no, no, I don't think so. But that's a great segue, Lachlan. What are you leading to?
I'm leading to the fact that Avatar: The Way of Water has overtaken Titanic as a more profitable movie, currently
Yeah.
sitting at number 3, the third
Suck it,
spot
James Cameron.
on the box office records.
Yeah, exactly.
This means James Cameron is just competing with himself at this point. Avatar, the original Avatar, is making its way up to almost 3 billion, by the way, because of its re-releases.
It
It's
definitely will
now
get
at
there.
the number 1 spot.
Yeah.
It's now at its number 1 spot. It's overtaken Endgame. It's sitting at $2.9 billion. It's so close to hitting 3, and that would be insane. A $3 billion success would be crazy. But yeah, I mean, this top 10 is it is crazy. I think Lord of the Rings could probably, if they do another one, and they really do a good one, could probably sneak into this top 10 list. I reckon there'd be enough fans to go and watch it. Maybe not if it's, you know what? I was about to say not if it was 3 hours, but now thinking it, if I look at Avatar, Endgame, Way of Water,
Yeah.
they are all like 3 hours long. So
And that's also maybe why they, some theaters charge extra. I don't know how this all gets tabulated and calculated here for the box office, but I feel like that. Well, it goes into the same thing where there's less showing of it because it's a longer film. I don't know. They're just widely successful at this rate. But the original Lord of the Rings trilogy, not the Hobbit ones, I think are still. Oh no, wait. What about the Hobbit? Let me quickly check that.
I'm on the list now. I can
They're
see
all in the top 100. All Lord of the Rings
Yeah.
and all and all of the Hobbit films. Although I think
Return of the
that
King is at 30, Two Towers is at
Yeah.
66, and Fellowship is at 69. Those last two didn't hit a billion, but Return
Exactly,
of the
yeah.
King hit 1.1. If we
Mhm.
go Hobbit, Hobbit is at 47. It did 1 billion.
Mhm.
That's Unexpected Journey did 1 billion. Desolation of Smog did
It
just
fell off.
under
Yeah, it fell off
950
about
mil.
50 and then stayed the same,
And
right?
Battle of Five Armies, 940 as well. So I guess those other two didn't really make it into the billion. I mean, both of those
The billion
trilogies have
club.
a billion
I mean,
dollar
adjusted
baby
for
in it, so
inflation, now a lot of stuff is probably still is over a billion.
yeah.
But they don't do that here.
Fuck, I forget that Zootopia made $1 billion.
That is crazy, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. We
There's
get
now
another
over
one.
50 movies that have made $1 billion at the box office.
Wow.
50 being Zootopia.
50,
That's
yeah,
crazy.
exactly
$1
50.
billion is a crazy amount of money to be making. Even like, you know, this what's the number 100? Prisoner of Azkaban, so almost 800 mil. That's still a
Mhm.
lot of money to make.
Yeah.
And you know, how much did Prisoner of Azkaban get made on? You reckon?
I think it would probably be like 150.
You reckon
Maybe.
150?
Yeah.
Ooh, I want to say 180. I'm gonna go a little bit higher than you. I reckon.
It's a bit lower. It's a bit lower. Apparently, it's 130. This is a tangent. I could do this for hours. Maybe we should do a deep dive onto the box office 100.
It'd
With
be
a
interesting to
budget game.
see. Yeah, taking out some. I wouldn't say. I mean, inflation's gonna have to be thrown in there as well.
Yeah, I guess you have to keep that in mind while you're guessing it. But I mean, if budget and gross is not adjusted, then you just got to take into consideration the release date year. That's it for that
Moving on.
tangent. The last time we'll probably mention the head-to-head race here. Until I guess Avatar 1 breaks 3 billion with either Avatar 3 or 4. Endgame can't really re-release in that same sort of way. Because it's connected to that like Infinity Saga. But yeah, two more news items. One of them being that the Berlinale wrapped one of the I guess first big festivals here. One of the big three that happened in Europe with the Berlinale, then Cannes, and then Venice. Early in the year already Sundance. We're moving to South by Southwest in March. So yeah, ramping up like a festival a month until like later in fall where you see a whole bunch of them. I didn't go this year. I plan to go next year. That's why I'm mentioning here. Hello, the Berlinale exists, so maybe we can do a bit of coverage when I end up there next year. Lastly, we talked about Warner Brothers acquiring the IP to make movies for I guess Middle Earth saga, the Lord of the Rings saga. Blumhouse is venturing into the video game sphere, opening up their own department to produce these video games. Lachlan, what do you think of that? Blumhouse doing video games.
Horror games?
Yeah, horror games. Yeah, low budget horror games, similar to what they do with the
great.
movies.
Low budget and horror games.
Yeah.
Probably some of the most successful short run lived game. I mean, like
Yeah.
Slender Man was
Slenderman.
based on a shitty game, and it was a very shitty movie. But the game
such a great
was
movie, Joey King.
so low
Ah.
budget that made it scarier. So I guess they realized that similar to horror movies, they're cheap to make and they can make a lot of money.
Mhm.
Same with horror games. So I don't know. If they could maybe make some like cool indie stuff, man, I'd be keen. But
Yeah.
no, I'm excited. I'll see what it does. Oh, with budget below 10 mil, that's a lot of money. Okay, $10 million is a lot of money. to
That's
throw
the
at
thing.
game
I don't
development,
know.
so-
I don't know how much 10 million gets you in the video game world, but the video game market I think has for a few years been talked about in a way that it makes more than like the film, music, whatever like sections combined. I feel like because the upsale on it is like that much higher per unit that you pay. And there's a lot of
Mm.
people who do it. And I think a lot of it is probably also mobile gaming. That's probably also something that they're looking at just because it's so profitable. But yeah, some good indie games. I don't say no to that. That sounds like fun. But that's it for the news of this week. Next week we are doing our final Oscar predictions. So don't forget to fill out the form where you can participate in the Quiet on Set contest to win a year of Letterbox Pro on letter on letter to win a year of Letterbox Pro for free. If you end up winning that contest, we'll participate and yeah, hopefully do better than we did in the last few years. But Lachlan, let's get to what we've been watching. All right, man. What have you been up to?
You want me to go? Okay, I'll go.
Yes.
I
yeah.
have been watching a number of things just to kind of catch up on, I guess, the Oscars coming out, so I can make my predictions. I've been watching a lot of Oscar-nominated films. Also been trying to catch up on films that I've never seen before, and films I might have just recently missed. So to kind of categorize these films, the films that I was catching up on for the Oscars were Triangle of Sadness and obviously this week's topic, women talking. So you get into my conversation about women talking a bit later, but Triangle of Sadness was quite fun.
Yeah.
Quite enjoyable, very funny, and I had a great time with it. So I can see how it got nominated. Stands no chance in any opportunity for any of the categories I believe it's nominated in. Best Picture, I'm sorry it's not going to go to it, but I have to admit that it was a enjoyable time, an enjoyable comedy, which that was even crazier, the fact that I was like actually laughing out loud with some just dumb moments. But it's only nominated for 3 Oscars, I believe. Original screenplay, which don't think it's going to go to that. Best Picture, as I said, not going to go to that. And directing, sorry, Ruben, it's not your year.
Yeah, definitely not.
Animated films. I was catching up with 2 of the animated films that I was yet to see. Those being Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, and The Sea Beast. The Sea Beasts I thought was just a average, mediocre animated film. It like didn't really have much heart to it, even though it really did try. Had a really good voice cast, which made it even more disappointing that you just really couldn't get into any of these characters. And it just, even the main creature, the sea beast itself, was one of the most boring designed creatures I've ever seen. Like,
it's
it was
very
pretty
smooth,
much just like flat and smooth. There was really no texture to it. Which not an entire criticism for making a very important creature just look kind of visually boring, but hey, that was just my opinion. Puss in Boots was way more of a fun ride for me. Once again, it was one of those kind of like shocking, why is this really funny, and the humor really landed for me. And the voice cast as well is also spectacular, but they had a lot more flair to it. I guess they had a little bit more fun in this film than what they could in other ones, and I just really enjoy, like, a great example is like the Grimm's Brothers tales, like the more realistic story, fairy tales of the very realistic version of fairy tale stories. I absolutely love that. So Puss in Boots: The Last Wish was wicked. Now I've seen all the animated feature films. I can still say that the it's gonna go to Pinocchio. Like, that's probably a lock for Pinocchio in that category.
Yeah. Did you see
because
that
the other 2 films?
Did you see that Puss in Boots made its way into the Letterboxd Top 100?
Did
It's
it?
on place 100. Yeah.
Oh wow, just
the
snuck in.
hype is
That's
the
good.
hype is well, it's 250 for a Letterboxd, but like it's in the 100, so it is much beloved, way higher than
I mean, it was fun.
Guillermo
Like, it
del
really
Toro's
was
Pinocchio.
a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I was going to enjoy myself, which is why I didn't kind of go see it in cinemas. I just waited for it to come out. But hey, I'm happy to be surprised and enjoy my time, like I did with Puss in Boots. So those were my
Your Oscar
Oscar
catch up?
ones. Oh wait, was
Yeah.
the
The
no, the
menu?
menu wasn't
No.
nominated, was it?
No, unfortunately not.
Which is a
No.
bit disappointing because
Mhm.
my God, this is another film that I didn't think I was going to enjoy, but when I finished it, I was blown away. Like it was a shock of how crazy good the menu was.
Yeah.
Literally. I had to just recommend it to everybody. I was like, "Have you
Mhm.
seen the menu?" And they were like, "No." And I was like, "You should watch the menu." And there were people who I was kind of nervous to recommend it to. I didn't think they'd like it. And I was like,
Yeah.
you should just try watching the first like 20 to 30 minutes and just wait for the first sort of like shocking thing to happen. And if you enjoy that, then continue on. And
Mhm.
pretty much everyone I recommended it to, actually, I think everyone that I recommended it to and they've watched it so far has pretty much come back and said, top stuff.
Yeah.
Really fun moments.
Yeah. It's a movie for the people, you know? It's an easy one to
Movie for the
recommend.
people.
It's an enjoyable
Oh,
thriller,
100%.
right? Nothing too deep. I like it.
Shots of the food was incredible. Like, God,
Yeah.
man, it made me so hungry. I was so hungry
Yeah.
to kind of like
That
eat food while
cheeseburger
watching
made
this.
me question, should I be vegan? I want that cheeseburger right now.
Obviously, Anya Taylor-Joy and Ralph Fiennes will be praised for this, but I
Yeah.
want a special shout out to Nicholas Hoult because
He was he was great.
he was so much fun. He was so good.
So
And
yeah,
I feel
such
like
a
he might
psycho.
be slightly underappreciated. And
Mhm.
I can't remember the actress's name. I'm trying to find it. Hong Chao. Hong Chao?
Yeah,
Hong Chu?
Hong Chao was wait, let me fact because she was in The Whale. I don't she was
She
also
was in The
in
Whale.
she was in this as well. I don't
Yeah,
Oh yeah,
she
she
was
was,
the
yeah.
main
Oh yeah, I forgot that she was
waitress
in this as well. Oh my god. She's had a great year.
as Elsa.
Yeah.
She was wicked, absolutely wicked as well.
Yep.
Just this
Mhm.
straight faced, honest, it's like no bullshit
Yeah.
waitress was wicked as well. So
Mhm.
I honestly think that people should go watch this. I gave it a 4-star immediately. It was one of those ones when I rated it. Oh, hear that voice crack? It's happening, Ewan. My puberty's going through. I'm not making that joke.
Finally!
It's happening,
I was
Ewan.
waiting for this moment!
Finally!
Yes!
Top 10 in most embarrassing moments caught on camera. Sorry. Yeah, I gave it immediate 4-star on Letterboxd. It
Mhm.
was one of those moments where when I rate things on Letterboxd, I kind of like put my finger on the stars and I kind of like move up and down
Woo!
until I find like the right spot. Where this one I kind
Yeah.
of just went 4 stars, submit,
Mhm.
easy. I had an absolute great time. The last one that I'm going to talk about is the Equalizer 2 because I watched
Okay.
the original Equalizer and I'd never seen it before for the first time about 2 weeks ago, and I decided to
Yeah.
follow it up with the Equalizer 2, knowing that they're in post-production now, I believe, for the Equalizer 3, so that will be coming out soon. And I know that this is like, you know, I've had people say I would love to see Denzel's Equalizer, and my dog is at the door. 1 second. Here I am watching the Equalizer 2. Wasn't as good, unfortunately, and I've known that people want to like have John Wick and the Equalizer guy,
They do?
I don't know his name,
Why?
go up against each other, and I'd love to
Okay.
see that because
Yeah.
that's pretty badass.
Mhm.
But no, yeah, that's basically what I've been watching. I don't think I've watched anything else. That literally. Look at me.
Literally.
Usually Ewan's the one who monologues for like 30 minutes about what he's been watching, but
No,
today it's me.
I love this. To like put that in whatever, like mark it down. I love this. This is great. Yeah, I caught some stuff as well. Not as much as you did. So I think you definitely watched more than me this week. Yeah, I had a busy week. Heaps of editing and stuff like that just on the side. But I went to see the new Creed film. We'll talk about that one next week in full spoiler thoughts because Lachlan, next week we'll be talking about a bunch of more films if we end up doing this that he watched. Because he said actually not just the Creed, he watches all of the Rocky films. He's watching Raging Bull. He's watching Southpaw. He said he literally wants to watch every boxing film because otherwise he couldn't. Like all of the anime that Michael B. Jordan references for the production disc.
Do you have this on like
I said it
recording, or are you making
just now. That you said that? Well, no, he'll catch up with the Creed films. He hasn't seen them before. At least the first one. I also rewatched that one last night, and Oh my God, the light is coming in. I had to open my window, and it's really aggressively shining on me right now. But yeah, give me the spotlight for this. Creed 1 is amazing. I think I'm coming in a bit less hot on Creed 3 after rewatching the first one, just because that one is done incredibly well by Ryan Coogler, and this third one is directed by Michael B. Jordan. The fight sequences are great. We'll get into that way more next week, so I'm saving that. Overall, if you like the franchise, go check this one out. It will still be fun. Like the Rocky films, as they progress, they got a bit wackier, a bit wilder, a bit dumber as well. So that's exactly what you get here. Then I caught the last film. I had to watch all of the Oscar nominees. You can go check out Evad. That should be on my YouTube channel, where I go over every single one of them, put them in a tier list of what you should watch, what you can skip. Exactly that. You'll get that covered. Won't go into like as detailed of a description here on the podcast, but EO was the donkey film that got in over Decision to Leave. I wouldn't put it over Decision to Leave. I don't know if that was like the exact thing that matched up here, but that one got in. At least like we need one a year. We got like a yak in the classroom, I think last year. Some random film with like an animal always gets into the international picture race. And EO is fine. It's about like a donkey's journey as he gets like misused, and he just tries to stay alive basically. And it's this tale about like this innocent being subjected to the harshness of humanity. That's basically what EO is, and it's done pretty well. I liked it quite a bit. Worth checking out, but I mean, we all know that All Quiet being nominated for Best Picture is going to take that. So I feel like, other than with Parasite, which was like the shot that it takes Best Picture, I don't like when one of them gets into the Best Picture thing, because then the interest is less like there from the people, and people catch up less with the international picture nominees. Lastly, shout outs to Zach Shavich from the Intercup podcast on their recent weekend must watch. They talked about Party Down, a series that came out, I think, in like 2009 or like 2012 or something like that, like over 10 years ago, about a crew of um I guess party event people that are caterers. 10-episode series. There's two of them. Season wrapped, series wrapped even. And now we are getting a third season. Episode 1 just premiered the other day. And it's a really underrated comedy show that I've never heard of before. And I just had to binge through the whole thing. It is so incredibly funny. It's great. It's with Adam Scott, who some people might know from Parks and Recreation, or now from the Apple TV Plus show Severance. Yeah, some great performances in it, and I can wholeheartedly shout that out. If you need something fresh on the comedy side, go check out Party Down. But that's it for all I've been watching. So Lachlan, are you ready to get to those women talking? Let's hear them. Let's hear them talk.
Let's get to them women talking. Let's hear them talk.
A group of women in an isolated religious colony struggle to reconcile their faith with a string of sexual assaults committed by the colony's men. That's Women Talking from Sarah Polley. Writer-director adapted this novel adaptation from a novel from 2018. I thought, honestly, Lachlan, that this was like something that was way longer ago, but it's, I guess, a period piece. That's why I kind of thought, oh, this was written way back. Like you said earlier in the show, it did kind of fly under the radar, but then resurfaced and managed to snag up a Best Picture nomination alongside a adapted screenplay nomination. Only 2 in total, but still getting into that Oscar race. Deservedly so. It's also been received overall pretty positively. I think all across the board. On Metacritic, it's a 79. On IMDb, 7.2. And then on Letterboxd, as you'd expect, a 3.8, pretty high over there. It comes in at a runtime of 104 minutes and is done by Orion Pictures. Only grossed about $6.2 million at the box office so far. Although that has to be prefaced that the international rollout is just about to happen, and I think it made about $5 million in the States, which still isn't really a lot. It's definitely the Oscar film, the best picture film that made the least amount of money at the box office. So Lachlan, let's dive into it. We'll get into like more plot heavy stuff. Later on, we'll give a proper spoiler warning once we get to those specific moments. But what did you make of the film overall, Lachlan?
Women talking from just like overview succeeds in a lot of ways.
Mhm.
Technically, very, very good, except in one area, which we will get to very shortly. And I feel like
Yep.
Ewan will know what area I'm talking about from a technical standpoint. Has to do with the cinematography, not with like the framing and stuff, but we'll get back to that. With films like Women Talking, where 95% of the story is going to be told via dialogue, and there are films like this in the past that are very dialogue heavy. The dialogue has to be good, and the performances have to be captivating to draw you in and keep you focused, because there's nothing that's going to keep you in visually about this film. There's no big explosions or set pieces that are going to make you blow your mind and keep you engaged with this film. It is primarily the story and dialogue and performances that keep this movie basically up high and on the edge of your seat.
Yeah,
So for me, this film is really, really good, and it was a bit of a shocker to not like hear about it until it kind of just came out and became Oscar nominated. And I'm watching it because I didn't actually watch it throughout the year, and I'm glad I did because it's spectacular. It's wicked.
Yeah, I feel like apart from, I guess, the other Oscar nominees, it's a bit of a downer of a movie. Other than that, maybe you got All Quiet that kind of compares to it. But Elvis, Banshees, Avatar, Everything Everywhere, Fableman's Tar, Top
Are you telling
Gun,
me
Triangle.
Elvis is not depressing?
Huh?
The abuse that Elvis went through. I'm fucking.
I was about to say.
Fuck Elvis. Fuck Elvis.
The abuse
fuck
on
the movie.
set.
Not
to
fuck
have Tom
Elvis,
Hanks.
like the person. Like fuck the movie Elvis. I'm fucking sick of it.
Yeah, it's everywhere, unfortunately. But I think Women Talking really succeeds, like you said, in making a ensemble, mainly dialogue-driven movie work, and that's really hard. And it could also come off, especially with the type of subject that you are more lenient towards it because it tackles a difficult subject that you would I guess like more easily sympathize with the women, this obviously because they went through something. But this movie goes way beyond that as well. It just works on a lot of levels that go beyond a, like, the message being spread about this and this being more openly talked about. The quiet solitude and not so quiet solitude once they come together and talk about it, and still not being able to open up. There's a lot of it in there, and it's incredibly well like woven into the dialogue, as well as just like some character moments, and all of the characters here bring their A game. There was one outlier that I didn't really like, and it's a bit weird because it's like the one man. I'm like, I didn't really like his performance, although a lot of people really seem to love him in this. Great ensemble film with a difficult subject to talk about, because overall this feels like simple. Something bad has been done to you. You gotta move away and move on from this. But there's so much more that they end up talking about it, because like this entire movie is essentially about them deciding, should we stay or should we go? And what we slowly uncover, which is not really a spoiler, is that every single one of them advocating for it or against it, are in some way impacted by this abuse, this sexual assault that keeps happening in this colony. And the way to discuss it, as well as like what their impact and their responsibility ultimately also falls onto their shoulders, how this goes forward, and how they don't really have a say in just like, even the young boys falling into those abusive footsteps. It's morbidly depressing if you think about it, and it leaves you really sad. It's just devastating to watch, and it's a thrilling ride. It's emotional and it's touching. I really liked it. I really had a great time with it, and I'm glad it got the Best Picture nomination. So hopefully some more people will check it out. Lachlan, you want to talk about the one thing that we don't really like about the film, though?
Do you want to say it on 3 so we know we're talking about the same thing?
Yes. 1, 2, 3.
Color grading.
Yeah.
What the fuck happened to the color grade of this film?
All right. I do know what happened because Sarah Polley, I think, talked about it a bit. Is that she wanted it to be as like bleak as possible, as close to black and white as you can, while still having color in it. And I don't really get the choice because it doesn't look. I mean, it's not a deal breaker for the film in any sort of way. It just doesn't look great. And I think it's supposed to look great in that sense,
Yeah.
but it's just something.
I
off
understand. I understand it now. I do understand it now. Because it's not very visually pleasing. If you could make the point though that where they are is obviously their sanctuary, their little slice of heaven in a way, and having it a bit more colorful, you could almost have it be like, well, why would they want to give up this beautiful landscape where they are? Because obviously there's that do they stay, do they go question throughout the entire film, and it could have been a visual cue of leaving, almost their kingdom of heaven, very biblical thing that happens when they leave the garden, humans leave the garden, Adam and Eve leave the garden, and they go off into the big bad world. That could have been something you could go down the other track, but I don't fully like. I mean, I get what they're going with it, but I just never really had that mentality through it because the dialogue and the performances are enough to draw you in and have you understand the complexity of the situation that they're in and the seriousness of the situation they're in. I don't think we necessarily need the bleak cinematography because it's a bit, just make it black and white.
Yeah.
Just make it black and white. Don't make it
do it because it does make it, if it's about like, it is a timeless tale. So, if you want to go for that, then I feel like strip any color out of it. Just to simplify it. But yeah, I guess they kind of wanted the middle ground here. And I'm just not really a fan of the really desaturated look because I always feel like it's trying to pull you in some sort of direction emotionally because it evokes an emotion out of it and it's kind of distracting in a sense. And I don't know, with black and white you can go into a lot of different directions as well. Like black and white doesn't mean like every black and white film is drastically different when you look at the lighting wise, and I feel like otherwise the lighting is pretty great in this. I liked it quite a bit. Oh, cat.
Yeah, because mainly it's gonna be practicals since it's it's a group of people who obviously don't use electricity, so you don't really have access to lights in a modern standpoint. Even though this film takes place in 2010.
Wait, it does?
Yeah.
Oh,
at least I'm pretty sure because I'm pretty sure in the siren it says take place in the 2010 census. So I'm pretty sure it only takes place in like 2010.
Also, it is like the religious thing that they are staying in this type of colony.
I think it's a bit like an Amish style of living, where they live off the land, and they unfortunately I'm not very familiar with the Amish culture. Don't use any sort of technology. But that's sort of how I see or how I saw it. But it's set in 2010. It's a fairly recent tale. And we had electricity back in 2010, so I believe it is just an Amish group or a very, they say isolated religious community.
Not to depict
Amish
like anything specific
more than anything. Yeah,
probably. Good
so
choice.
we know that they had obviously the option to go color because they shot in red raw. So we know they had the option
really
to put color into it. They actually just left it as the red raw palette. They didn't actually do any color grading on it.
It
does
like,
I like
this. A bit like
this looks great.
Mm-hmm. It does look
it
a
looks
bit
flat.
like a log line. Log file.
But the raw format as well with the red cameras. If they used a red, they used a Panavision Millennium.
Panavision,
if they used a red camera, they would have had pretty good low light performances, so because they would have shot digital. So that's quite impressive. With the lighting that they had, it pretty much all looked like practical lighting. They probably would have had some
Yeah.
fill lights here and there to get some faces, but a lot of the lights that you see, I guess the prop lights in the scenes, they can't really have anything too bright. So
Mhm.
I would really like to see some of the technical stuff behind the scenes of how they did the lighting of the film. But other than that, I mean, technically, there's nothing else really that stands out to me because
No.
everything about this film is quite safe. There's nothing really too fancy about any of the technical work. Um,
Yeah.
Nothing blew me away with the score or with the music, and I can't really remember if there was any music at any points, because it never really jumped out to me like some other films did. But maybe that's just
Right.
because fairly recently we watched Babylon, and
Babylon.
Babylon's just like absolutely wicked for music, and
Yeah.
that's going to
Well,
skew
it
the
jumps
fucking
out of the
rest of the
screen and
year.
then slaps you across the face continuously.
God, it's
That's
so
kind of what
much. It's
Babylon's
just so
score
much.
does. Yeah. I feel like the
Uh,
performances here, to me, I'm always rooting for Rooney Mara to land another great role. I think she's a wicked actress. She's amazing. Um, Frances McDormand is in the film for like 5 seconds, and then she's just gone. She's really just in the opening, and then at the end, she's really not like in the film at all. But I like the dynamics that they had with Rooney Mara being like the more calmer person, in this, Jesse Buckley being fueled with a lot of energy. Same with Claire Foy, but kind of up against each other with what they wanted to do. And yeah, it's just great to see them conversate, to have this difficult conversation, and put it to a vote. And yeah, I feel like one of the changes from the novel, which would have made more sense to me if it were like, set later on. What they do make is like there's an opening thing, there's like a narration that goes over it, which I'm typically not the biggest fan of. I kind of get why it's the narrative framework, because what they write down here is what ends up being, what's carried over. That's kind of the logic, or what's set up in the continuity of this setting. Um, Difference from the novel is that Ben Wishaw's character August is the one narrating the thing, because he writes it down, and I think he has the book at the end. I don't know if they exchange it here. I guess slight spoiler warning for the rest of the review if you want to get into those specific things, but ultimately I think you can't really spoil this movie. It's about them making the decision. They make a decision by the end. That's pretty much it. Uh, but yeah, they change it to do you remember which character it is? Is it Anna or one of the younger ones? One of the characters
I
yeah,
don't.
ends up narrating it. But what do you think about, like, to me it makes sense to not have a film called Women Talking narrated by a man. It would kind of, go against the principle of what this movie is about.
It would, but it would make sense in this, with August playing the character that
Yeah.
he is, ends up narrating it. It's obviously from his perspective when pretty much all the women leave, because spoiler, they leave.
They leave.
He's one of the only people who stays behind. So
Yeah.
it's obviously, it could have been like a thing where they have it from his perspective, telling about the story of these women leaving and how they learnt from their mistakes, and he's teaching the future generations their story. That's a cool way of doing it as well. But I
Mhm.
totally get the changing of the narration.
I get that change. I feel like if you can, I would just pretty much always get rid of the narration. I don't think it's ultimately like relevant. It just seemed a bit odd with the change of, like, including
Mm.
that end part where he leaves. He stays then there, and he has the book. And oh my god, I'm ascending into heaven right now. Oh, it's so bright. But yeah, ultimately, I don't know if we have anything else to share. Our thoughts on the film. Just a great recommendation that probably not a lot of people have checked out yet. So get on that, go seek it out. It should be playing in theaters maybe around you. I know in Switzerland it's getting a really, really limited run. I think just like out of the couple hundred theaters that we have in Switzerland, I think about four of them are like about to play it in special screenings. So really, you have to be on the lookout for it. I think for Australia, it did get a bit of a slightly wider limited release. But it should also be available to rent and buy on Amazon. So go give it a try if this piqued your interest and you're a completionist like the two of us are for the best picture, 10 at least. Lachlan, where do you arrive at as a rating for Women Talking?
I gave Women Talking 4 stars out of 5 on my Letterboxd account. Pretty damn good. Not perfect, but absolutely a must-watch from 2022.
I agree. I also arrived at a 4 out of 5 for this one. Now, if we had to pair it up and you're exhausted from the tale that was these women talking, what would you put alongside this film as a double feature?
Well, I thought maybe since one of the characters in here who is Oscar-winning actress,
Yeah,
Frances McDormand, doesn't really get much to say,
no.
and they are spectacular. And you'd like to see more from Frances McDormand and say a lot more to get a lot of people talking about one particular topic. So I thought the best option for a double feature would be 3 Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri.
I like that choice. Also, her name in the film is Scarface Jans, which is a
Yeah.
badass name. That's such a
Because she has
badass
a
name.
massive scar on her face. It's dope.
But yeah, I would put it alongside. I should close my window again. It's really distracting. But I'm pairing it alongside some other women, some Little Women from Greta Gerwig. Little Women, a great film from 2019. Looking forward to Barbie. That would be another fun, like completely different direction type of pair up once that movie comes out. But I don't know if it's good yet. But yeah, Little Women is my double feature pick. Now, Lachlan, let's have a look ahead of what's releasing this week. Creed 3 is coming out in theaters. We'll be talking about that film more extensively next week. Finally, the Guy Ritchie film Operation Fortune Ruse de Guerre is releasing in wide release in the States. It came out in some places earlier this year internationally. I already caught it. There should be a review on my channel out for it right now if you're interested. I don't know if you'll be able to catch it anytime soon, but I'll talk about it a bit more in next week's show. But that's pretty much it. Next week, we'll be back to box it out, to duke it out with Jonathan Majors in Creed 3. I'm really looking forward to you checking that out as well. A fun one. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on this video. Go check out our other videos. They should be linked below. And we'll see you soon.